This is going to be episode 12 of the Samurai Brothers Wrestling podcast. And so we're going to be doing things a little differently because Zoom decided to go with a 40-minute limit on 1-versus-1 calls now. So we're testing out Facebook Live to see if that's going to work. So welcome all. And it's me, John, and Matthew. We're going to be talking about stuff today. So Matthew, thanks for putting this together and inviting me on today. So hopefully your volume's coming through, is it not?
Yep.
All right, great. So, Matthew, I thought we'd cover a few things. Let's just make sure that we're both advertising to everyone that we are both on Facebook right now. So, I'll just make sure that I'm getting on. I'll get on here and make sure that.
Already did that. We only have one live viewer. Well,
all right.
Well,
cool.
Actually, well, technically no, because on my stream it's you. So.
All right. Cool.
But anyone who wants to can put comments in there. I could do polls if necessary, and other stuff. So if anyone wants to jump on, we can do that. And also for our later anyone who else is listening. We can do this. We'll probably go back to like a 3 o'clock start time? Was that what we were normally doing?
Yeah, so today I have a little bit of stuff going on, so that's why we're starting a little later. But yeah, so anyone who will be, just FYI, we do these on a weekly basis. And normally we start recording at 3, but with the advent of being able to do a live stream like this, we'll be doing this on a regular basis. So Matthew, today let's go ahead and get into the topics that I wanted for us to cover for today. I have done a little research on what's been going on, and so it looks like there is a last chance qualifier for the World Team Trials that are going to be happening this upcoming weekend. So not the last chance qualifiers happen this weekend. And so that will then, so whoever hasn't qualified for the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament, which happens this upcoming weekend, which is May 21st and 22nd, the top placers who hadn't already qualified for that tournament we're wrestling today. So I thought I'd get into this a bit.
Are we also going to cover the Pan Am championships?
Yes, I did want to get into the Pan Ams because we were kind of cut short on that, and then I also want to talk about probably also to close out today's session. Talk about who is probably. At least when I was looking at his entry on the school's website, it says that he's the most decorated wrestler in that school's history. But I would have to say that this unique individual we'll be talking about today is probably the most decorated in NCAA wrestling history. So with that being said, Matthew, let's get on into it. Let's cover first. I'll pull up. I'm not sure if I can screen share or not, but I think that'll, at least for right now, we'll just go over the results of the last chance qualifiers, which took place this weekend in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So for those who might not know, we have the World Team Trials are getting ready to come up, and that will basically determine who will be representing the United States in wrestling, in the international competitions, when it comes to, when you can only be represented by one person per country. So, for example, normally like the Pan American Championships, which happened recently, but the people who were representing, the USA for that tournament would have been the ones who qualified last year, if memory serves me right. So then the people who will qualify, for the upcoming events will represent Pan Am next year. But then we also have like the World Championships, among some other ones. Now I do know that they have open international competitions, and those ones typically, I think anyone can go to those. And I think especially like with ones that we have over here too. I think the Dave Schultz Memorial is a very big one. I've seen teams even from Japan come out to participate in that. So Matthew, let's as you know, there were I believe the last time I saw after the U.S. Open happened, there was around more than 500 wrestlers in men's freestyle, men's Greco, and then women's freestyle that had all qualified for this. And I think, and that includes obviously people who qualified in freestyle and Greco events. And then also you had wrestlers who also qualified the NCAA championships, the NAIA championships, or the women's collegiate wrestling championships. But Matthew, do you think this is going to be a pretty hard road to get through, especially for those who are trying to get into the Final X? We know that there are some people who are already qualified. Those who medaled at the World Championships or the Olympics. And so there were, out of, I believe, it was either 15 wrestlers that did qualify for that. And 2 did decline, which was Adeline Gray, who's currently pregnant, and then Gable Stevenson, who, even though he won the gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics last year, because of his contractual obligations to WWE, he is now pursuing that road, but
he's like, I think he's probably the first guy since the fabled Kurt Angle to get a direct pathway to the main roster, because some guys do some kind of it's like we're amateur. Here we are talking about, we're an amateur wrestling podcast and we're talking about pro wrestling. But, most guys do some kind of developmental stuff. And obviously the developmental promotion has varied at various times. Right now it's NXT. But, there was a time when it was Ohio Valley Wrestling. It was Florida Championship Wrestling. But But normally they do some kind of developmental stuff. So Gable Stevenson getting a direct path from amateur wrestling to pro wrestling on the main roster is not normal.
No. Yeah, so that means that, I would think that means that the WWE is going to be trying to look at him as a marketable figure. Going forward, kind of like how they did with, Ronda Rousey. And I think I'd seen how Paige Van Zant got into pro wrestling too, but I don't think, since I don't really follow WWE that much, I mean, I've seen that she's been there, but, someone like Ronda Rousey.
Paige Van Zant is doing AEW.
Okay.
The current top competitor to, WWE, and they're slowly, it's like for a promotion that didn't exist, I don't know, however many years ago, they're slowly like obviously, it's not like what WWE was in the Monday Night Wars where they were losing money, but they're slowly building a following. But I should note that Paige's relationship partially has to do with the fact that the owner of American Top Team, I think she's still connected to American Top Team, but the owner of American Top Team is actually a pro wrestling fan, and he actually created an American Top Team stable in AEW. So you have an MMA gym stable in a pro wrestling promotion.
Yeah, and also on top of that, WWE has it's not just like Gable who's in there. I think when he made his debut in the WWE, he confronted. Let me go back and look at who he did like a move on while he was in the WWE, and he went against someone. Not sure where it was specifically, but he did make an appearance at SummerSlam, and I saw the video of what he did at SummerSlam, and he did like some kind of finisher move on a competitor named Chad Gable, and I looked up.
He's got an amateur wrestling background.
Yes, and he's got an amateur wrestling background too. So, apparently, I'm actually looking at Chad Gable's Wikipedia, and actually his real name is Charles Betts. But he wrestled at Northern Michigan University, and I think that is actually, I'm not sure which specifically that is, but I think it is a part of the University of Michigan system. But it looks like it is a D2 school. So, but nice to see that we've got wrestlers that are progressing in many areas, which is a good thing.
It's very interesting because there's been lots of trends with stuff going on over the years. So initially, obviously, we had this trend where we had pro wrestlers going into MMA. We had that with like Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, the disastrous result of CM Punk, the unexpected success of Dave Bautista in one fight. But we had this trend of pro wrestlers going into MMA, but now it seems to be the trend of MMA fighters going into pro wrestling. Because Ronda Rousey was not the only person to do that. There was the brief foray of Cain Velasquez. You had aforementioned Paige Van Zant, Tom Lawler, Matt Riddle. There's been a lot of people like that. Of course, now we have that thing of MMA fighters going into boxing, which, in the case of Tito Ortiz, Ben Askren, and Tyron Woodley, hasn't really gone very well. But in the case of Anderson Silva, it's actually going very well. But yeah, in terms of, another thing to keep in mind though is obviously the more successful pro wrestlers going into MMA had an amateur wrestling background. Like I said, Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've got. Let me see. Let me make sure I have it. So let's go one more time over. Who is how the results went. It looks like there was actually, not sure why, but there had been some people who were and Matt, this is interesting. Because it looks like there were some people who had already qualified for the World Team Trials, but they were competing at this last chance qualifier. Now, my guess as to why you would have people competing in events when they're already qualified is probably because they're trying to improve their seeding at the World Team Trials. Now, obviously, when you have the winner, you have the winner of the U.S. Open, they get an automatic seed into the semifinals of the Challenge Tournament. But then you may have some other wrestlers who are trying to, depending on where they finish at each qualifier, that they then, because I'm very sure that they're seeding people at these tournaments. So that's why I'm seeing that, like, for example, you had, and I'm very sure that you had to place top 3 at the last chance qualifier. So, like, for example, I'm seeing, men's 50, in the men's freestyle, you had, at least as far as who ended up qualifying for the World Team Trials, at 57 kilos, you had Timothy Levine from California, but his, looks like his, he's from New England RTC. Although, let me make sure of who's who at this. Now, although it looks like these are just the results, so it may not be, I may be looking at this wrong, because I'm trying to look at the article from, from USA Wrestling. So it kind of varies, it looks like, because they're making mention of stuff here and there, but I think it's kind of hard to tell. But it looks like, again, this is going to be the highest placed USA athlete per weight category winning a medal who has yet to qualify will earn a spot. So now that I'm going back and reading that, it looks like it's only going to be one person who's going to qualify for the World Team Trials at this tournament. And it's whoever is the highest medalist who has yet to qualify. That's what it looks like. Now it looks, and I see, Matt, if you remember Isaiah Martinez, who was a, state champion from California, I believe, and then he had been a national title winner for the University of Illinois. It looks like he was competing at this tournament. But so, at least for the last chance call. Now, I don't know how. I'm very sure I'm going to have to wait for the list to come out, from USA Wrestling to see who specifically qualified. But so I'll just go over who placed at the tournament real quick, and then maybe ask if you have any comments about that. So 57 kilo for men's, Timothy Levine from California, New England RTC, Tech Fall, Nicholas Babin of New Jersey, 10-0. You had Dalton Henderson from Virginia, decisioning Antonio Menino from New Jersey, 13-9. At 61 kilos, Shelton Mack from New Jersey, decision 3-3 over Nasir Bailey from Illinois. So that must have been quite a match there. They had quite I'm sure it was a barn burner on that one. And then third place at 61 kilos, Christian Ganone from New York, Tech Fall, Peter Hammer from Texas, 14. And let me see here. So Joshua Sanders from Missouri at 65 kilos, decision Brock Zach Earl from Pennsylvania, 7-6. Your winners, and then I'm just going to read through how the finals went. 70 kilos, Jared Burke-Learon from Virginia with the decision win over Christian Montserrat of Massachusetts, 10-1. So he almost had a Tech Fall there. 74 kilos, Joey Lavallee from Missouri, Tech Fall Elroy Perkin from Wisconsin, 11-0. And then our Wonder Boy here, Isaiah Martinez, wrestling out of Oregon. Tech fall over Devin Skotska from Michigan, 13-3. 86 kilos, Andrew Morgan from New York. Decision over Jonathan Lowe from New York, 9-8. 92 kilos, Nathan Jackson of New Jersey. Tech fall over Patrick Davis of Virginia, 10-0. And 97 kilos, they did not give a result, but it was Jason Carter wrestling out of Montco Wrestling Club over Jayden Sonner of Indiana. And then you had the finals at 125 kilos for freestyle. Derek White of Oklahoma, decision over Luis Fernandez in New Jersey, Fort Wayne. So, not too many names that we're familiar with. The only name that I know of is Isaiah Martinez. Matthew, I think, probably these guys, will have a big hill to climb when they get to that, when they get to the World Team Trials, would you say?
Yeah, because it's one of those things where you're starting out rather low on the totem pole. So it's even though they're trying to give as many people a chance as possible, but the reality is, you've got the U.S. Open winner who gets that semifinal berth, and then of course you've got the person who's sitting in the final X. So it's a long road to go for anybody who's seated anywhere below, those kind of privileged top positions.
So then here's where it gets interesting. So yeah, a lot of those, if they had, more than 5, looks like, then they would have done, a regular standard bracket. I think the biggest brackets, when I'm looking at the article, a lot of those would have just been like an 8-man bracket. It seems to be the max, and that's probably because of just people just trying to get in. But then when we get to, I'm looking at the article for Greco and women's, and this is where it gets interesting, Matt. So when you're looking at Greco, you had some weight classes where only one person showed up, and that means. And what do you think about that when, there's an obvious difference in people wanting to get in on freestyle versus Greco. And I think this kind of goes back to how, USA Wrestling expands the qualifying criteria, to get into the Greco team trials, because if you remember, we talked about earlier where if they allow, I think, top 3 at D1 qualify for the World Team Trials in freestyle, but I think up to top 5 can qualify in D1 for Greco, and then top 3 in D2, D3, and NAIA qualify for Greco as well.
Well, obviously that goes back to they're trying to get more participation in Greco because the U.S. traditionally hasn't had a whole lot of success when it comes to Greco. Obviously, there's been those isolated successes here and there, but the reality is we're not exactly known for our Greco. We're known more for our freestyle because everyone who advances wants to do freestyle because freestyle is obviously the most similar to folk style. So obviously we're trying. It's like the participation is obviously trying to get motivation to compete, get more Greco people out there. So they're making the criteria a lot broader in order to encourage more participants.
So when I'm looking at, I'll just go over it really quick. Greco-Roman, at 55 kilos, they only had 4 people participate, so that means that they did a round robin there. So the winner of that weight class was Jonathan Garul from the NMU National Training Center. At 60 kilos, only one person signed up, and that was Garrett Totten from wrestling out of New Jersey. 63 kilos, only one person signed up, Diego Romero out of Florida. 67 kilos, there were only 2 people that showed up, so I'm assuming they did a best 2 out of 3. The winner of that was Jesse Williams of Spartan Combat RTC. 72 kilos, they only have 3 people, so they have done a round robin, obviously. Noah Walksmooth was the winner, wrestling out of Colorado. 77 kilos, though, looks like they did have a bracket because they wrestled finals in a third-place match. So Chad Walsh of New Jersey pinned Terrence Parks of New York in 48 seconds. 82 kilos, they did have a bracket. Adrian, and I don't know how to pronounce this name, but I will do the best I can. Adrian Artsisuski of New York Elite Wrestling Academy tech called Aaron Dobbs of Wisconsin 8-0. At 87 kilos, he had a 2-man bracket again. So Geborg Eric Kellogg of New York was the winner. 97 kilos, they also had a round robin in that one. Timothy Eubanks wrestling out in Nevada. And heavyweight actually was, they had a bracket. So Tom Foote of Massachusetts pinned Robert Ray of Virginia in 22 seconds. So we're having times where we're having pins, I see. And so here's where it gets really interesting, Matt, with the so then if we go into the women's freestyle, of the 10 weight classes, only 1 was contested. Only 1. And so that was of all the weight classes, that was the 50 kilo weight class. Had 4 women show up, and so they had that round robin. Nyla Valencia, wrestling out of California, was your winner at that weight class. So then the other women that just showed up, 53 kilos, Janya Liz Cotto from Crazy Monkey Wrestling Club was your sole contestant at 53. At 55, the sole contestant was Toriana Buchanan from Red Cobra Wrestling Academy. 57 kilos, Genesis Ramirez of All Navy. 59 kilos, Montana DeLauder from Team Tornado. 62 kilos, Alexandria Lyles from Army Wrestling Club. 65 kilos, Sierra Brown Ton from Twin Cities. 68 kilos, Anna Luciano from Team Tornado. 72 kilos was Sky Rollo from Cougar Wrestling Club. And then 76, Melissa Jacobs from Twin Cities. So, again, out of 10 weight classes, only 1 was contested. Now, theoretically, probably, I'm wondering if, everyone else was just, I'm not sure if this was an invitational or not, or how this worked specifically. But that's kind of interesting that, it's a last chance qualifier to get to the World Team Trials, but only 1 weight class was contested. What do you think of that, man?
I think that just means that the people who are interested in competing were already that were interested were just already in there, and they weren't really interested in doing anything after that. So I guess whoever was there probably figured to already be in there. Though, to be fair, that means that anyone else would have just had to weigh in. It kind of like what was the Memorial Tournament?
Bill Farrell.
Yeah, it's like the Bill Farrell. It's like in some since you just had to weigh in. So it's like any of those other weight classes, someone had just weighed in, they would have been in, but clearly not some of them obviously weren't interested.
Okay, so let's get in real quick. I know we were trying to get to this last week, but we couldn't get around to it that much. And that was talking about the Pan Ams. So I found out some interesting things about that. But let's get into it first. So you had, I think they did. Looks like they did the Greco-Roman matches first, and then they followed up with women's freestyle, and then they closed out the competition with men's freestyle. So, and I'll tell you this, at least where we're at compared to, the Americas, when it came to the Pan Ams. So it looks like the USA is pretty much dominant when it comes to, the American region, obviously. So when I'm looking at, let me go over how we did first in Greco. So the U.S. medaled in Greco in, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, looks like we took, half the weight classes when it came to, actually, let me make sure I got this right. 1, 2. Yeah, because they contested. It looks like, though, they didn't contest everything. That's kind of interesting because for whatever reason they jumped. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. I'm looking at the wrong category. Let me go back and where did it go? Not the Pan Ams. The rest of Greco. Oh, okay. Sorry, I had that wrong. So let me. Oh, they're kind of doing this. The way they're writing these articles is kind of weird. So I think I closed out one of the. Okay, so out of the. So on day one for the Greco events, they contested 7. They contested 7. And we ended up medaling in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 7. And of those, 4 of those were gold medals. And then one of those was bronze. And, excuse me. So that was, and when it came down to and then the last 3 that were contested, the U.S. medaled in 2 of them. So out of 10 weight classes, Matt, we medaled in 7, and we won gold in 4 of the 7 weight classes that we got medals. 3 of them were bronze. And then they did team scores, and the USA ended up winning number 1 with 165 points. Second place was Mexico with 148, and then Cuba, who we know to be quite a big competitor, ended up with 101 points. So what do you think of how we do? So I mean, we won the team title, but it's not like we're dominant when it comes to Greco.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where we're like just doing enough in
We're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we're doing just enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me go over. So at least who ended up. So you had the.
Now I'm curious. Does it say? Because I myself am actually looking over the UWW handbook in terms of participation of the World Championships. Does it say anything about qualification for the World Championships?
You mean as far as
the Pan Ams?
Pan Ams?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything in terms of that. Like they don't really give any references to it at all.
Because I'm looking at the book right now, and so here's what it says. In order to something that I'm most interested in. In order to participate in the cadet, this is Article 27 of Chapter 4, or just Article 27. Fifth paragraph, in order to participate in a World Championship, Cadet, Junior, and Senior, a national federation must obligatorily participate in the Continental Championships of the same age group. With at least the same number of participants per style, then the federation will enter in the World Championships. In other words, a national federation cannot enter more wrestlers per style than the number entered in the Continental Championship of the same age group. However, a national federation can enter less per style in the World Championship than the number entered in the Continental Championship of the same age group. Now, it sounds like you just need to enter somebody in the Continental Championship, which in our case is the Pan Ams.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it a... I know that the World Championships have more participants because there's more qualification criteria for the... and we've discussed this. There's more participation criteria for the Olympics.
Right, the Olympics are a little bit more tight than the World Championships. Now,
yeah, but it sounds like if you just enter someone in the Pan Ams, then you could send somebody. But I'm just like, wait, it's that simple?
Yeah, that kind of... Well, you know what? We'll have to...
And this is, like I said, this is... I just went on the website. I'm reading this verbatim from the updated handbook of the website. I'm just like, it can't be that simple. You can't just go in there and go, you know...
Yeah, because then you're going to have...
There's 100 and something nations, and I know that not every one of those people can send wrestlers, but it's just like, that just doesn't sound right. Like, someone can't, like... I'm just using this blindly, but someone can't just go into Nepal in the Asian Championships and lose their first match and go out and then show up at the World Championships. It can't be that simple.
Well, we'll have to...
I'm using that as an example. I have no idea how Nepal is in terms of their wrestling. I know that they haven't won any medals, but it's just... sorry for anyone from Nepal. I'm just using them as, like, when you think of nations, you just don't think of Nepal. It's like... Yeah, I'm just using Nepal as an example because you just don't think of Nepal as being good at anything. They're this little landlocked country in between China and India.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I you know,
I don't even think we have any kind of diplomatic relations with Nepal. There's several countries that the U.S. doesn't have diplomatic relations with, and it's like, you'd understand North Korea, Iran, you know, some of those others, but, you know, the Afghanistan is kind of murky right now, but Nepal, it's like, wait, we've never had problems with Nepal. Why aren't we talking? It's like, I know that I know there's this little insignificant country, but it's like, why? I'm going to tell you right now, if by some kind of lucky shot I were to become president, I would say, one of my goals, establish diplomatic relations with Nepal. There's no reason why we shouldn't be having diplomatic relations with this little country. It's just weird.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see what the bracket looks like especially from last year, because I'm very sure, and now there could be countries that they just don't send anyone. You know, they decide not to send someone for some reason. But I think if we were to go back and look at a bracket, then, you know, we'd probably be able to, you know, find that out. So that'd be an interesting topic to cover. Now, with that being said, though, I'll go back and I'll look back at who. So you had the women's freestyles. When they were finishing up the Greco, they did also do. They did 3 women's freestyle matches the same day that they finished the Greco matches. So, and of those, they did. So they did 55, 65, and 72 on the first day for women. And we ended up getting medals in all of them. We had 1 silver and 2 golds. And then to close out the Pan Ams for the women, of the remaining 7 categories, the women got medals in another 4 with 3 gold medals and another silver. So overall, the women ended up getting 5 gold medals and then 2 silvers at the Pan Am. So right there, total we have 21 medals after 2 styles, and that, we still have to see how the freestyles are going to go. Overall, though, United States did win, pretty comfortably in terms of points for the women's freestyle team standings. The U.S. had 190 team points, followed by Canada, who had 165, and then Mexico, who had 120. So, Matt, I know that our main competitor, when it does come to, women's freestyle in terms of this region, does so happen to be Canada. And one interesting thing that I've found is that there are some of the girls, from the U.S. will go to colleges in Canada and wrestle up there. And but I know that there have been women from Canada who have been, pretty competitive when it comes to the World Championships and even I think at the Olympics. And that's probably a good thing, though, because then that makes the girls down here have to try and work hard to, try to stay on top, right?
Yeah, so I think that, like one example, Victoria Anthony, she wrestled at Simon Fraser, which is in Canada, and then my vaunted teammate Helen Marulis, after she spent the 1 season at MOBAP and won a championship, the next thing she did was go to, I think she might have gone to Simon Fraser as well. I might be wrong.
Let's take a look, because I think
she didn't stay at MOBAP. She was there that 1 year, my junior year.
Now, was she older or younger than you?
She was younger than me.
Okay, so then
she was either a sophomore or a freshman that year that she wrestled.
Yeah, okay. So she went to high school. She then went to Missouri Baptist, and then she transferred. So she was at Missouri Baptist, and then she transferred to Simon Fraser.
And then did she wrestle there the rest of the time?
Yeah, it looks like it. And then to get ready for the 2016 Olympics, she was wrestling at the Olympic Training Center at Northern Michigan, which was brought up a little while ago.
You know what's interesting? She was actually she and like a bunch of girls were wrestling at the Olympic Training Center in Michigan before they came to MOBAP. The way I understand it, Randy Miller, who was the assistant coach my sophomore year, who also was a Olympic bronze medalist, she basically brought a bunch of the girls that were wrestling under her with her. So the team went from essentially being a lot of Missouri Valley transplants. That's basically what happened was my sophomore year, most of the girls were Missouri Valley girls who basically, I guess there was a lot of drama going on at Missouri Valley at the time, and they didn't want to deal with it, so they left and came to MOBAP. And then they left, came to MOBAP, and then the next year was that chunk of the girls who were well, and I want to put an emphasis on this. There were some girls who were signed directly as freshmen, so the bulk of them were from Missouri Valley. Then my junior year was essentially the Olympic Training Center transplants, which actually did include one or two guys, but it was mostly women. Then my senior year, Jackson actually did a lot of high school recruiting. So we had basically three different waves. The first 3 years that we had women's wrestling. There was the Missouri Valley girls, the Olympic Training Center girls, and then just a bunch of freshmen, essentially.
Okay. So let me see here. So yeah, I mean, pretty powerful. At least. I mean, you got the U.S. women going out doing what they're needing to do, which is good.
But yeah, it is interesting that the U.S. The Canadian U.S. women have the U.S. women have more of a continental rival in terms of the Canadian women. So the North is kind of a stronghold there, but then the Canadian men aren't just are not much to speak of.
So with that being
said, I've been taking a peek at the brackets from the World Championships last year, and
I think you can screen share too.
Let me screen share.
Yeah.
Okay. You see that? So this was so this is just freestyle, but this is this is 57 men's. So you see there's a bunch of pigtails. And then
ECU, I think that's Ecuador.
Yeah. So you have a bunch of pigtails, and then you have the quarterfinals, the quarterfinals, the semi. Wait a minute.
Right. It's when they say 1-8, that means that it's the quarterfinals. Or sorry, no.
Oh, no. 1-4 is the quarterfinals. Yeah.
1-4 is the quarterfinals.
Yeah. So the round of 16 is the only round that is guaranteed to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So you have the round of 16. You have this qualification round to get into the round of 16. Then you have the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals. And then of course you've got the repage for the let's see. What
now,
round winners
like,
are those?
So here's what I'm seeing happen. If you make the semifinals, you're automatically guaranteed to finish 5th place. Basically, because let me see, you had Atlee in the bottom semifinal. You had Atlee from Turkey who lost to Sarlacc from Iran, I think. And
why am I thinking of Star Wars?
for
Sarlacc, the Sarlacc pit.
You got me.
It's the Sarlacc pit. The pit that Jabba tried to shove Luke down in Return of the Jedi. The Sarlacc pit.
So basically though, so you've got yeah, what's going to happen is that if you make the semis, you're automatically guaranteed for the 5th place match in case, in the event that you lose and you can wrestle for the 3rd, for the bronze medal. So I think so. It looks like in terms of the repage though, because I don't think, I'm not seeing anything, as far as...
It looks like if you make it into the quarterfinals, then you get the opportunity to wrestle.
Yeah.
No. Oh, right. Yeah, I remember how the repage goes. Yeah, the repage is the what happens with the repage is the winner. It's not the whether someone goes into the quarterfinals. It's the people whoever loses to the
whoever loses to the finalists.
Yeah.
Like for example,
that's how 5 count. I don't know how 5 counties runs now, but because of the large size, I remember that's how it used to run at least. I mean, wait a minute, you referee, does 5 counties still run that way?
No, 5 counties runs double elimination.
I thought it was double elimination repage. Like, did it
Not
change?
that I recall.
Like, I know that there were, I know that because there was less participation because Temecula Valley ran their opposing tournament that participation was down. But back when I wrestled, 5 counties was the only big tournament in town. So as a result, they had more of a repage where if the guy that you wrestled made it, I can't remember how far you would have to go, but he would have to go make it to day 2 in order for you to even get into the consolation rounds. And what happened was I lost in the first round my sophomore year, but the guy I wrestled won, so I got to wrestle another match. But my junior year, the guy I lost to lost, so I only wrestled the I might have won matches in both I feel like I won at least one match both years. But my problem was I was constantly dealing with injuries my senior year, so but we've talked about that. I think it's like in the end, it's like I missed a bunch of opportunities. I missed the All-Star match. I missed 5 counties. But in the end, what mattered most was I made it further than anyone else on the team. I almost made the state.
That's true.
So for someone who was like out half the season with injuries, I'd say I did pretty well. Like I have no regrets. Everyone else who was healthy didn't make it as far as I did.
Yeah, if you had been healthy, you would have made it easily.
Oh yeah, I would have made it easily.
But yeah, just and same thing happened to me. There's a couple tournaments I could have qualified for back in high school. If I, like that first tournament I competed in my last year, my knee was giving me problems, so I had to bow out. Prevented me from moving on to the next tournament, but it is what it is.
It seems like we always dealt with injuries.
Yeah.
Well, your career almost ended with your broken vertebra.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you were able to have a career after that and wrestle up to JC after having had a broken vertebra is kind of a miracle blessing in and of itself.
Well, and I'm gonna try and get back into it. Trying to get back into it again too. So, yeah. So yeah, things just kind of go the way that they go.
Yeah, So this is this bracket. I've only gone up to the 70-pound bracket, but it's like. So you got this going on at 57, then at 65, 61 is slightly larger. 65 is larger than that. 70 is larger than that. I could keep going. Oh, look at the rapage. He gets bigger. With
Yeah,
with
it
the
does.
with the
But
more.
there's still only not it's not even a full 32-man bracket.
Well,
So
I was reading. It's like I read somewhere that there's another criteria in terms of it's. I, man, I wish I'd kept that open, but there's another criteria where there's like a cap of the number of participants in the actual tournament itself. But I think it said something like but the cap was like at like 700 or 800 or something like that. But over the three styles, I'm just like, what?
oh, that's interesting. I'm wondering how. So again, just because you compete at like your regional tournament doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be able to compete at the World Championship.
Yeah, to me, yeah, that's just. Yeah, it's like the way that I'm reading it. There's got to be some other criteria, and maybe again, if we could talk to somebody who'd be a little bit more in the know about that, we could maybe find out.
Yeah. So with that being said, one thing I did read about, and when it came to freestyle at the Pan Ams, so they did. Let me see if I can find it. So the first day of men's freestyle, they only did 2 weight classes, and that was 79 kilos and 92 kilos. And so it was Jordan Burroughs and Jayden Cox. Needless to say, they both won gold medals, just because of how good they are. I mean, they both did, their weight classes, they both did round robins. And Jordan Burroughs only got scored on once in his entire run. And Jayden Cox teched all 3 of his opponents without giving up a single point. So I think that just goes to show you how dominant these 2 wrestlers are. And I was looking at another article about, Burroughs' performance this year, and he's competed in the Pan Ams 5 times, and he's won 5 titles. He's never lost at the Pan Ams.
Well, that just goes to show that he doesn't have a whole lot of competition in the Western Hemisphere.
Right. When it comes to I think it's a testament of just how dominant Burroughs is in terms of that.
Oh, so I did look up one more weight class. 74 kilos almost has a full 32-man bracket.
Oh, okay.
There were 3 buys, the 1, 2, and 3 seed.
So in terms of, they closed out, the last day at the Pan Ams. They did the remaining freestyle weight classes, and of those 8, the people who medaled were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So on the last day, the U.S. medaled in 7 of 8 weight classes, and so that just goes to show. And of those, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, they took gold in 6 of those and took silver in the remaining one. So they basically won 8 weight classes and took second in the other one. And needless to say, their team points was 229, and then the next closest team was Canada with 138 points. And Puerto Rico was 3rd place with 120.
Oh right, yeah, Puerto Rico. Yeah, Puerto Rico it's a U.S. territory, but because of that, it gets to be represented in the World Championships.
Right.
You know, without getting too political, I don't. It's like for that and several other reasons, I think it's been more beneficial for Puerto Rico just to maintain its status where it is, because it gets a lot of benefits how it is. If it became a state, it would lose a lot of those benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think on occasion they do actually medal in certain athletic events. Like, so they would lose that. They would lose that position. But yeah, we're not getting too into politics. But yeah, I just felt like mentioning that.
So, but I think though, Matthew, I mean, just the fact that they won the team championship by almost 100 points, I think just shows that it's a testament as to how dominant, the men's freestyle team is. At least in our region, So basically, the U.S. won in all three styles at the Pan Ams, and going without saying that they were pretty much, and the most dominant one was the men's freestyle. So in total, gold medals alone, they won 17 weight classes out of 30. So,
and just remind me how many medals were gotten in the others.
Well, and then I think the Greco had 3 bronze, and then the women had 2 silver, and then men's freestyle had 1 silver. So that was 6 medals aside from gold. So we medaled in 23 out of 30 weight classes.
So we should, and I think based off of that, we could probably see what would happen in the World Championships, and at that point we'll have our answer as to how the World Championships works. Because if there's more than 23 wrestlers at the World Championships, then we'll have our answer.
Now, I think I did see that I have to go back and look. I think it was in the women's. One wrestler did place 5th. So it might be possible that wrestler might be competing.
Yeah, so basically if they have 24, we'll know if how their criteria actually goes. But if they have...
Well, I think, I would almost... Here's what I have to think that it's probably going to, criteria that they're going to use is who... I have to think that it would be top 6 from each region.
How did all our people do in terms of that?
You had 24 wrestlers.
So no one made it to the 5th round and flung and lost. It was
23 medalists and then 1 5th place finisher.
Okay. So yeah, if the team takes 24 people, then we'll know the answer. But if they take if we have a full team, then we'll know the answer.
Well, then that would almost make sense, because you got Pan Ams, you got Asia, you've got Europe, you've got Africa, you've got Oceania. I don't know that there's somewhere else. I think that might be it in terms of...
So America, Oceania, Asia, Europe, Africa.
I think.
So 5 times 6.
That's yeah.
That comes out to 30, right?
Yeah.
So let me go back to, let's see, the 70 category.
Can you, if you go into the brackets, can you find anyone from an African country? I mean, that'd be kind of an interesting thing.
What is GBR?
I think that's Great Britain.
Okay, Geo, India, Yemen, Turkey, Germany, Italy, USA, Korea, Serbia, Britain, Azerbaijan.
I think, and
I could maybe try to make this. Yeah, I could probably maybe try to do this in my spare time and see if I can't find somebody from You know, something we might not be thinking of. There might be alternates from the regions.
That's true.
There might be alternates from the regions, and then on top of that, you know, if the regions don't bring the full 6, they might be able to plug in those alternates, depending maybe on like their rankings or something like that.
Mm. Okay. Anyway, so that's where that's at, Matthew.
Obviously, we have seen people from Africa compete before, like Egypt.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about the other countries, though.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to make this a You know what? That 70 weight class that I'm looking at. Let's see, how many of those guys are? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys got buys. So it's the 1 through 6 seeds got buys. Oh, they do seed them as well. They seed all the way down.
All right.
So yeah, it's possible that So yeah, that would make sense. So a 30-man bracket. So the 1 and 2 seeds would get automatic buys. Everyone else, it would depend on who all went in the weight class. So if it was the top 6. So yeah, it's one of those things where the richer country can take more people. And could possibly field a full team if there aren't enough from other regions.
Okay. All right.
But again, we'd have to talk to somebody.
Right.
You know, here's what I'll try to do. I will try to reach out to So who's the Orange County USA Wrestling rep or head?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Yeah. I'll reach out to the Sequoia because I don't think people realize a lot, but so where I am, Kings County often is just grouped with Tulare County, and it's usually anything along with that is called Sequoia. Like, I'm part of the Sequoia Paralegal Association, but also the wrestling area is Kings County and Tulare, and it's called the Sequoia Wrestling Association. So I'll reach out to the head there and see if he might know.
All right.
But, you got Silva. Oh, but then again, Silva might not know.
No, he won't.
You know, if Casper were still alive, he'd be the perfect guy to ask. I feel like he would have known.
There's a few people that I know that are involved with like USA Wrestling and stuff.
Yeah, so they would probably know, but yeah, our theory of the theoretical 30-man bracket with alternates would probably make sense. So I guess this is a project.
Yeah. So, Matt, I'd like to close out talking about who is most undoubtedly the most decorated wrestler in the history of the NCAA, and that
Who
is
probably
Mr.
will always be the most decorated wrestler of the NCAA.
Because of the COVID situation, they were granted a 5th year of eligibility, and a lot of them took advantage for a 5th year. And so we saw that there were some wrestlers who ended up becoming a 5-time NAIA All-Americans. You had Miles Amin, if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah, but let's be honest.
Michigan.
Yeah, but let's be honest. How many 5-time world champion or 5-time national champions are there as a result of that?
Well, it could depend, because you got Yanni Diakomalis. I'm not sure if he's got it or not, but he won his 3rd title. Before, the 2020 championships, I think. And then I think when they brought it back, last year, right? And he won that, and then he won his 3rd title this year. So theoretically, he's got one more year. But if he has a COVID year, he could try to come back and win a 5th title. Now, I don't know the status of that. I do know that Roman Bravo Young, 2-time national champion for Penn State, he announced recently on his social media that he's going to be coming back next year. So he is going to come out to try and become a 5-time D1 All-American, 3-time champion for Penn State. So, you've got guys that are going to try and come out to do that. So, yeah, I'd be really interested if an extra year, if he comes out and let's say that he, is successful and wins next year, if he has an extra year, is he going to try and come back and do it to become a 5-time NCAA national champion? Which now leads us into and again, this is probably the only wrestler that will have achieved this. It probably won't happen again because of current NCAA rules. Mr. Carlton Hasselrig, who was a wrestler out of Pittsburgh, Johnstown from Pennsylvania, and he is the only 6-time NCAA champion to date. And how he became a 6-time NCAA champion was based on rules that NCAA had during his time, and just to kind of give everyone a perspective of Mr. Carlton Hasselrig. So let me go to when he was. I'll go ahead, Matthew, and screen share when Carlton Hasselrig was inducted into the Pitt Johnstown Hall of Fame. So let's see. Go ahead and screen share this. So Carlton Hasselrig, he was a 3-time NCAA D2 champion. And at the time that he was wrestling, he wrestled for Pitt Johnstown back in the 80s. in the mid to late 80s. And at that time, the NCAA had a thing where they would let the NCAA D2 and D3 champions wrestle at the D1 championships. And just so happened that Carlton Hasselrig, the 3 years he wrestled at the D1 championships, I have to say that it's a feat that will not be, it will not be repeated.
John, I think you need to repeat that. There was some issues.
Okay. So where did I cut off at?
You mentioned that he the criteria.
Okay. So let me see here. Okay. So yeah. Can you see the page, man?
Yep.
Okay. At the time that Carlton Hasselrig was wrestling, he was the NCAA allowed D2 and D3 champions to wrestle at the D1 championships, and my guess is they did not have a person like Carlton Hasselrig come through before. You probably had some people that would probably qualify as they get to be All-Americans and such, but it sounds like there was no one that was as dominant as Carlton Hasselrig. And so he ended up, from what I'm seeing, he never lost in his Hall of Fame entry here at Pitt Johnstown. He never lost at the D1 tournament, and he never lost or tied a D2 opponent. So my guess is, he had a record at Pitt Johnstown of 143-2-1, meaning that he probably, at some of the collegiate tournaments that he would wrestle at, he probably did have some losses, obviously. But I think here's the other thing that was just so dominant about him. In high school, he hit the high school that he attended did not have a wrestling team. And so he had to wrestle freestyle during summer, like it says, because there was no high school program available to him. But it looks like there were some Good Samaritans who petitioned, his school district board, his school board to allow Carlton Hasselrig to represent Johnstown High School as an independent, and he ended up winning the Pennsylvania AAA state heavyweight title his senior year. So some other things that I read about is that he actually did go to Lock Haven University, which Matthew, as we know, Lock Haven is a school that participates in D1 wrestling, I believe, for the MAC. So he was actually trying to do football at Lock Haven, but an injury prevented him from going further in his career there. So he transferred to Pitt Johnstown, which was the local college for him where he lived. And then it just things went from there. He goes out, he wins the D2 championship, and then 3 years in a row he wins the D1 championship to become the only 6-time NCAA wrestling champion.
So the reason why he didn't wrestle his freshman year was because he was doing football and he got injured.
Right.
And then, but then after that, he makes lemons out of lemonade and goes on this tear.
So you gotta think about that. The fact that he was a guy who had, you have to think about it, minimal wrestling experience.
Well, also, are you
but
reading?
very athletic.
Yeah. Are you reading what he did after he wrestled in the NCAA championships?
You mean about the part where he got drafted?
Yeah. It's like after that he.
Yeah. Yeah,
He got
it's like what's his name?
Yeah, 12th round draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, went on to be selected as a Pro Bowl offensive lineman without ever playing college football. Currently training and managing mixed martial arts fighters and wrestlers at Cold Steel MMA and wrestling in Johnstown.
So I just.
But yeah, you were mentioning Stephen Neal, who wrestled at Cal State Bakersfield, world champion, never did football in college, and played with the New England Patriots, won several Super Bowls. His relationship with Tom Brady is what helped save the Bakersfield wrestling team when they were gonna cut it.
So yeah, I think that's just so I think you have to think about there are some very talented people,
and he's one of them. I mean, it's the fact that it's like you were talking about, very minimal wrestling experience, and he goes out there, wins a state championship his senior year, gets injured out of football, and then he goes and wrestles and wins the national championships on both levels 3 years in a row.
I mean, to get injured and then come back and wrestle is one thing, but to get injured and not just win one national title, but to win two in a matter of weeks, because the way that things are right now, the D2 championships are like a week or two before the D1 championships.
So in theory, you could reinstate it in that rule and allow guys to wrestle.
I mean, so yeah, it was because of Carlton Hasselrig going out and winning the those titles. The NCAA discontinued having D2 and D3 wrestlers competing at the D1 championships. I think that was just that was
out of embarrassment.
Kind of makes me wonder if maybe some of those wrestlers were from Iowa or from Oklahoma State.
Probably.
So, unfortunately, Mr. Hasselrig passed away. It looks like a couple years ago. If I'm let me see here. Yeah, he passed away in July of 2020.
54.
Natural causes.
Define natural causes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, with that being said, though, I think just his dominance and stuff, I think, is one that is most definitely has to be respected, and just the fact that he went out to go win, 6 national championships in the way that he did, and definitely a pioneer for many people to come. But Matthew, I think it's just you have to give it up for this man who really
liver disease.
Yeah. I mean, but hey, man, this is just a one man army when you think about it, In how he wrestled. I mean, I'm sure that obviously he had aspirations for football. But, he earned his place in history, not in the way that I'm sure he thought he wanted to go, but definitely.
They should make a movie about this. They should make a movie about this guy.
Yeah, if they're gonna make a movie, they should make a movie about Carlton Hasselrig.
It's like you think. It's
I mean,
like
hey,
you think about the great wrestler. You think about the greatest wrestlers in the sport. You don't hear about this guy. You don't. It's like you hear about Gable. You think about
No,
you hear about Gable. You hear about Kale. You hear about Dan Hodge. You don't hear about this guy. Like what?
Hey, USA Wrestling.
Like what?
USA Wrestling. Here's your movie. Here's your movie script right here. Carlton Hasselrig. You know, instead of making a movie about Fox. What is that? Foxcatchers, all fine and dandy. But hey, how about making a movie about this guy? You know, Carlton Hasselrig.
Yeah, you talk about biopics. It's like, let's do this guy. And it's in that bio it said that he gave back to the community. It's like, he went out and did that, and then he came back and it's like to the end he was helping out his community.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this was a man who truly gave back. This isn't. It's like, yeah, this man is.
Anyway, so that goes without being said. Anyway, so for tonight, episode 12 of the Samurai Brothers Wrestling.
Oh, we did.
Podcast.
I would like to know
for the first time. Go ahead.
I would like to know we did have comments on the Facebook from
our cousin.
Our cousin, yeah. I'll be sure to mention that when I see her and when we see her.
All right, Matt. So with that being said, I think all our fine audience folks, they know where to find us, right? Samurai Brothers Wrestling on YouTube.com. And also Matthew runs his own MMA site dedicated to MMA fighting, and that is MMAfreak.com. That's MMA-freak.com. The Twitter you can also find MMA Freak on Twitter, which is at MMA Freakout. And Matthew also has his own YouTube channel. He uploads quite a few fun things on there. And also, you can find Matthew on Twitter at Matthew Salzer. And Matthew, if they want to find us, aside from here, we're doing we're doing Facebook Live for the first time. But if we have other places, where can our audience find the Samurai Brothers Wrestling podcast?
Okay, so in addition to YouTube, as we just mentioned, we are on Rumble, Acast, Apple, Spotify, and Google. Other platforms to be added. I know that I keep saying that. At some point, we'll actually get to it.
Yeah, we're leading busy lives, but we're trying to do what we can. I am finding a few places, and so make sure to reach out to us. And we're on in various places. But thank you as always, to our viewers on YouTube, and then also to those who like to pay attention to us. And we're trying to get a variety of ways to make sure that we can give you some quality content. Anyone has any suggestions about what they'd like to hear us talk about? Feel free to drop us a comment or send us a message. So with that being said, Matthew, thank you as always for your insightfulness into topics related to wrestling. And to our audience, we hope you have a great week, and we'll be seeing you again very soon.
Yep.
All right. Thank you all.
Yep. Thank y'all.